Hi there, we are looking at week 5 of close reading. So we are cracking on apace with this, and week 5 is a big week, an important week in the life of close reading, because this week we are looking at sentence structure and word choice, the biggies in close reading, the ones that you absolutely have to know. And of course you have to know it because they are important tools in that famous writer's toolkit that I'm always going on about. Sentence structure, the way a sentence is put together, the punctuation that the writer chooses to use, the length of sentence he wants to use, and all of that, of course, coming back to what the subject is. If the subject is to convey alarm and shock, the writer will use a short, brief, sharp sentence. If the writer is trying to convey the endless passage of time, the sentence will be long to reflect that, broken up by lots of different punctuation, brackets, dashes, semicolons, colons, etc. These are the tools the writer uses. You have to be able, in close reading, to identify them, in critical essay writing, to use them yourself. So, the basic things that we're looking at, carrying on a bit from last week. Last lesson, we looked at punctuation, the job of punctuation, and how by identifying it, we can pick up on tone, we can pick up on, the writer's purpose, etc. Structure. It says here in the notes that sometimes students find the concept of sentence structure difficult and difficult to explain in an answer. But you should have a checklist that you go through in your exam, in your head, when you're asked a sentence structure question. The first thing to look at is to look at the length of the sentence. Now, examiners ask you about sentences. They don't ask you about plain old everyday normal sentences, of course. They ask you about complex sentences, probably followed by a short sentence, a minor sentence, a non-sentence. They're testing you. They want to see, do you know what's happening here? The length of the sentence. Look at the subject, because that tells you why the writers used that. Make it work to the subject of the sentence. So your first thing you're looking at is the length of the sentence. The next thing you're going to look at is repetition. Is the writer repeating words? Why is he doing that? Now, in this booklet here, I have got an example, which I'm going to jump to just show you what I'm saying by that. Now, look at that. Sentence structure, example 1, page 7. The sentence is, never believe everything you hear on the news. Never assume that the report is true. Never accept it at face value. Never just listen without questioning. Bias in the media is and always has been a serious problem. The latest scare tactics about global warming is a typical example of dramatic exaggeration in the press. So if I was in an exam answering that question, I would think, first of all, looking at the length of the sentences. Never believe everything you hear in the news. Never assume that the report is true. 2 short, sharp sentences. Never accept it at face value. 3 sentences. Never just listen without questioning. 4 simple sentences coming after each other. What is the subject? Well, first of all, it's about not believing. It's about bias in the media, and it's about questioning things. Look at the way the writer has set that out. He's repeated the word never, and you would circle that in your exam paper. Never, never, never. It appears at the beginning of 4 sentences in a row. Straight after it are verbs. Never believe, never assume, never accept, never just listen. Well, never just listen. Okay, so we've got this, there's a pattern there, isn't there? And that's what you're looking at with sentence structure. What are the words doing? What is the writer doing with it? Okay, so that is the idea of repetition. Does the writer use a chronological structure? Often it will be 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, or the other way around. 30 years ago, 15 years ago, present day, this morning, this afternoon, tonight, that kind of idea. Look for a time structure. look at the idea of, is it building up to a climax or an anticlimax for that matter? What are the sentences doing? What's the subject of the sentences? And I hate to go on, but it's called close reading because you have to read closely. And in the sentence structure questions, they're easy. The answers are in front of you. You tear apart the words. Get your pen, your highlighter, and mark. Tear it apart. What's the writer doing? What's going on in this sentence? Okay, so I go through the different types of questions, rhetorical questions, parenthesis, punctuation, a bit of overlap from last week. Can I draw your attention to page 6 of the notes here? Make sure your answers aren't vague, and we touched on this, why does the writer use parenthesis in the sentence? And candidates write things like, to give some extra information which makes his ideas clear. No, that's waffle, unclear. What a good answer would be, and I've written it down there. The writer used parenthesis. He placed the words of sorts in brackets. This gives the reader the idea that he thought the response was unsatisfactory. This makes clear the writer's idea that he's being critical of the government in these lines. So you go on, you look at the words that are in parenthesis, link it back to the subject. What's the writer saying, doing? What's he up to? In the brackets. It's not, a first year pupil could say there's some extra information, or younger, brackets, that's what brackets are for, yes. So go on and tell me why. What's he doing? Okay, so they would then look at how to answer them. You have to explain how the sentence structure is used and how this helps you understand the writer's ideas. Now, all the different examples there on these pages, I will talk to you when I Skype you. I'll go through them with you. Sentence structure is very, very important to get right because there's so many marks for sentence structure questions. Okay, and the second part of this week is word choice. My all-time favourite close reading question, word choice. Obviously, there's and it's my favourite because it's easy. It's really seriously easy. You get the word, and what does the word make you think of? What's the connotation of the word? Why did the writer choose it? What's the subject? Okay, and I go through an example there. The policeman strolled into the house. The writer's chosen the word strolled, and it's a key word. He could have used walked, he could have used marched, he could have used stormed, he could have used charged. Why did the writer choose the word strolled? The writer's suggesting that the policeman is relaxed and happy, not in a hurry. It suggests the policeman's mood. And that's a very simple example of the word connotation. So we go through the different words, the nuance of a word, what is a subtle difference in meaning. So I do not like you and I loathe you. What's the difference there? The tone, we've done that. The way something's said, spoken. And that takes you through that. Critical or personal. Humorous. We've done all these things. This is just a bit of overlap again. Okay, so the first thing you do in word choice questions, you pick out the words that you're going to comment on, and they're always obvious. You quote the words in your answer and you analyse the word in detail. The connotations, the associations, the sound effects, is it onomatopoeic, etc. And the effect of the word. And how does it help you understand the writer's ideas or opinions? Okay. So, look at that first example. The boy was interrogated about his actions by his parents. Well, the word you would pick out would be interrogated. What do you associate with the word? What connotations does the word have? What does the word make you think of? Interrogate. It's a strong word here. It's suggesting that the boy was being grilled in a very authoritarian way, interrogated, very thorough, almost, well, no, not violence, but it interrogates makes me think of, war criminals, police. It's being grilled to a severe degree with no let up, that kind of idea. There's no gentleness associated with the word interrogate. What image? So I've said what images it creates. And why did the writer choose this word? Well, the writer is trying to get across that the parents were not happy at all with the boy, and that they're not letting him off with what's happening with him. Or whatever. So that's what you do. You think of what it makes, think of the things you associate with the word. Okay, so let's look at that one. Example 2. We have been bombarded with numerous images. The attack of the advertisers is relentless. The barrage is almost disorientating. Okay, so we've got the word barrage, bombarded. Bombarded makes us think of being hit repeatedly. So images, pictures coming at you repeatedly with no let up, with no choice in it almost. It makes us think that the advertisers are in control here. They're the boss. We are like the victims here of them. We've got no control over it. So bombarded, if you're being bombarded, you're being hit from all angles. That's the kind of idea that it makes me think of. And this is a good word to use here because it's showing you that the advertisers are not letting up. That kind of idea. Now I'll go through the other examples with you when I Skype you. And there are lots. So, word choice, you identify the keywords in the sentence, you explain the connotation, associations of each word, and you explain the effect of each word. Okay, so there's lots of examples in this week's work. Okay, so the assignment in week 5 is to go through some examples of sentence structure and then word choice. Lots and lots and lots of them. Practice makes perfect. And we're nearly there. Okay, cheers.